So when you've got the whole statue, cast statue, pretty much where it is, just in this area, because I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit, it's a good time for a background. So on my reference, I've got a pretty nice dark background. I don't have to get as black as that, but I do want some dark values on either side to frame this and to bring this statue forward out of the background. So I'm going to start with some compressed charcoal. It's going to get kind of messy, so you might want to take it over to the trash can once in a while. I'm going to get right up against the edge. Nice big piece of soft compressed charcoal is great for this. It's a little messy, but it really fills in a large area. As I get more and more of this charcoal in, I like to use a brush or my finger after I've gotten rid of most of the excess over the trash. Like I said, it's going to be messy, but it's kind of necessary. So we're going to spray probably after this layer. Kind of push everything down into the surface a little bit better. The brush is great for getting in there with a soft finger instead. Gets these edges pretty nice. You can also use your stump to clean up your edges, although it might take a little bit of that charcoal out. So I've blacked in background on the other side too, and now it's a question of just softening my edges. With that, I can use my finger, but I can also use the stump and blend that in a little bit better all the way around. I like a little bit of variation in it, so it's not just flat black. So I took a tissue and rubbed it in really well. You want to get that compressed charcoal worked into the surface really well. You want to rub it in with your finger or stump and a tissue and keep it going. If it's a nice, rich black compressed charcoal, it's going to stay there. It's not going to stay behind. And you can see what it does for the statue. It just pops that statue out and makes the lightest values that are there even brighter looking. And that's even without white. So we'll go to the next step now, which includes a little bit more detail. So we're going to talk about some finishing detail. This one has a long way to go. I'm hoping that everything that I've done here, little bits and pieces come together to give you the whole picture. We're going to end up putting detail in with the smallest instruments, the smallest media, which would be the pencils. And so coming in and defining my edges. Remember I told you not to try to get too much detail at the beginning because it's going to get lost when you did that background. Now we're cleaning it up. Good idea to put a piece of paper down so that you can keep that surface clean. I'm not trying to outline. What I'm trying to do is hit my edges where it's appropriate, strengthen those edges, strengthen that cast shadow using hatching, maybe some cross hatching. But basically just defining the form and detailing it out. I'm also using my kneaded eraser to come back in and clean up my edges wherever they got a little smeared, a little bit lost in the background stage. It's just fairly nice and clean. I can do that also with the background coming into it, so I can take my soft charcoal pencil and just define that edge a little bit better. And clean that up. Getting ready for white. Okay, with the addition of white, you definitely don't want to overdo it. A little bit goes a long way. Look for the brightest areas on the form. My light is coming across the form this way, hitting it pretty strong right across the front face. And then I'm going to let it fade out. I'm using nothing but hatching and cross hatching. I don't want to blend that in with the black. It makes this very strange pewter looking colored, like a dirty gray. So I want to keep the blacks and the whites separate. This is a good example right here of a highlight area up against a cast shadow. You're rarely, if ever, going to need to combine black and white together. You've got that neutral paper underneath. That's a really good transition. So I'll continue to build it up a little bit. Not too much. Maybe some hatching across the form to soften that. Getting my edges back, but very, very, very softly. You can use these small circular strokes if it's appropriate. Would totally be appropriate in some of this texture area where it's kind of broken and textural, and this would be just about right to do something like this. If it's ever a little too strong, don't rub it. Don't blend it with a stump or your finger. Your finger's probably a little dirty. Just take a kneaded eraser and soften it like that. And that usually works just right. It's really important not to put the hard edge white everywhere. Guide your viewer. You don't want all these hard edges everywhere. Just be particular about where you want the viewer to look. And keep it soft in other areas. There's no reason to put in hard white edges everywhere. It should be nuanced. At the end of the day, at the end of the project, there's nothing wrong with seeing some marks of the artist, some hatching and cross-hatching. This is the layer, the final layer is where that actually all comes together. So if you like to hatch and cross-hatch, this is a good layer to do that in. It doesn't have to be overly blended at the end. You want it to blend in with everything else, so you don't want to go too harshly. But the marks that the artist makes are valuable and useful because they can define edges. They can define just a little bit of different shading, texture, value. So don't blend everything in at the end. Okay? That's it.